Few things in life are worse than walking out of a movie extremely disappointed. So let's talk about some of those movies today. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going through my top 10 most disappointing movies of all time. The movies that I had high expectations for and was personally excited for, and they unfortunately let me down. These are not the worst movies I've ever seen, they're just the movies that really ended up disappointing me. Before I get into this list, drop the movies that disappointed you the most in the comments down below, hit that like button, subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 85,000 subscribers here on the channel, and check out my Patreon link down below. Your support goes a long way over there. You get access to the Discord server and other content. But without further ado, let's dive right in. Kickstarting this list at number 10 is Pirates of the Caribbean 5, which is called Dead Men Tell No Tales. I've been a huge Pirates fan my whole life, and this probably won't be the last time we talk about Pirates on this list, spoiler alert, but you bring in Javier Bardem as the villain, you've got ghost pirates, and it feels like it's returning to the Dead Man's Chest at World's End era with great villains and a main plot that's actually sort of compelling, and that's just not the case here. This is the worst Pirates movie. It is stupid from beginning to end, essentially, and it fails with creating a group of characters that I feel anything for. Jack Sparrow is a bumbling drunk idiot times 1,000. This is the worst we've seen him in the franchise. He's just so irritating, doing things that are out of character for him. He used to be this clever pirate who you could root for. In this movie, he's this down on his luck drunk, and obviously he's drunk in every movie, but in this one in particular, it just got so frustrating. There's no charismatic side characters, you know, it's obviously lacking Will Turner and Elizabeth, but even the main supporting cast is pretty much gone here, and it introduces two new younger leads who I really felt nothing for. Barbossa was one of the highlights here, but this was a really outlandish Pirates movie. There's like a whole sequence on an island where Jack Sparrow's like at this wedding. It was bizarre. Like, I really did not enjoy my time with this movie, and it's so far below where this franchise started. I went in wanting it to be, you know, as good as the trilogy, which I thought was possible based on the marketing, and it really, really let me down. Next on my list is Jordan Peele's Nope. The reason this made the list is because I think it's a big step down from Get Out and Us. Anytime Jordan Peele makes a movie after I watch Get Out, my expectations are going to be pretty high. He knows how to make a horror thriller that is very effective and clever. This movie, in my opinion, missed the mark compared to his other two. Us had a really great twist. Get Out, really great twist. Nope, a little more on the ambiguous side. And don't get me wrong, I'm fine with leaving things up to interpretation, but the thing that frustrated me with Nope was like right after the movie came out, one outlet dropped an article like explaining the whole movie, and then a bunch of people read that article, and then they took it and made it into their own thoughts and were like, oh, I totally interpreted this right when I walked out of the theater, and it was like, really? Obviously, Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer are great. The whole cast is awesome, and there are sequences in this movie that I like, but I look back on it and I go, that's definitely the least memorable Jordan Peele film by a long shot. Again, has some moments of terror, but I never felt the real stakes, and I like to have some sense of understanding of the main threat in a film, and I feel as though this movie was just really up in the air for no good reason by the end. At number 8, I've got Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. I went and saw this movie in theaters and was over the moon excited. So pumped to see Ben Affleck as Batman. He's fighting Superman. The marketing for this movie was amazing. Granted, in retrospect, it did reveal way too much, but just the idea of having Batman vs. Superman on screen fully sold me, and I walked out of that theater so disappointed because the film didn't really deliver on its title. We got a brief Batman vs. Superman fight, and don't get me wrong, it was badass. The movie has its moments to shine, but by the end it became pretty dumb. I mean, Doomsday is introduced as the main villain, and Wonder Woman comes in, and it becomes like a Justice League half movie as opposed to a Batman vs. Superman film. A lot of things are forced into this theatrical cut, and we all know the Ultimate Edition is a step up, but I'm just addressing my experience with the theatrical cut here. Lex Luthor was a cringeworthy villain, to be honest. All of his lines missed the mark for me. At the time, I was upset with the way they handled Batman and how he was basically killing people, and I remember just having so many issues walking out of the theater when I wanted to walk out elated, and that just wasn't the case. BVS is a movie that I just don't go back to, and I think it's because it gets lost in this overstuffed plot with so many different things going on. You've got these courtroom drama scenes, Doomsday, Lex Luthor, Superman and Lois' conflict, Batman's trying to do his own thing. Like, it's Man of Steel 2, but also Ben Affleck's first Batman film, and then Batman vs. Superman, and then a Justice League movie. Way too much going on, and I just remember walking out super disappointed with it. At number 7 on my list is Thor: Love and Thunder. In Phase 4 of the MCU, we'd had some misses leading up to this, but I was like, Thor Love and Thunder will be the one that I really like. It's one of the OG Avengers back. You got Taika back, who directed Thor Ragnarok so well. And the marketing, again, won me over. It had some Guns N' Roses in the marketing, and it just seemed like it was going to be a fun Thor movie. Hopefully really funny, but also heartfelt. I went in and watched the movie, walked out super disappointed because of how painfully unfunny it was, because of how, frankly, stupid it was from beginning to end, and borderline unwatchable. This is the worst MCU movie to me, and I went in expecting it to maybe crack into my top 10. That wasn't the case at all. Love and Thunder was a joke. It never really took itself seriously, even though it had characters like Jane return and the way they handled her whole cancer storyline. To me, it brushed over all the real serious moments. The movie fully wasted Christian Bale's Gore the God Butcher. He had so much potential to be an elite MCU villain, but he fell short because he's barely even in the movie. And Thor himself is basically doing an SNL skit the entire movie, and it's just missing the mark. Whereas with Ragnarok, the humor hit. With Love and Thunder, it fully missed the mark. And this honestly could be the last time we ever see a Thor movie, and it might be the last time Taika ever directs in the MCU. Next on my list, I've got Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. This is a movie that followed up the original trilogy. I adore the original Pirates trilogy, so seeing it return after a few years off had me over the moon excited. You're bringing Ian McShane as Blackbeard, Penelope Cruz is added. I should have known this one wasn't going to hit the same. Pirates should have ended after the third film. It was always sort of Will and Elizabeth's story, and Jack was a supporting character. This movie puts him at the forefront, and it misses the mark because of it. It is about the Fountain of Youth, and there's mermaids involved. All that's fine. I think it's conceptually good for a Pirates film. Like, on paper, it should work. But there's just a lack of execution. The movie honestly gets a little too dark for its own good for a Pirates movie. Really lacks any of the chemistry with the crew, which is what I love about a Pirates movie. And the humor missed the mark for me too. Like, On Stranger Tides is a bad movie. It doesn't feel like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. There's no real swashbuckling adventure or stakes that matter. And there's not a lot of chemistry between any characters in this film. It just feels like a shell of what the franchise used to be, much like the fifth. And honestly, after the Pirates trilogy, the other movies don't really exist to me, and this is further proof of that. Bringing us into the top 5, I've got Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the film that came out this year and was one of my most anticipated movies ever. Indiana Jones is my favorite movie character of all time. I adore all 4 films. Yes, that includes Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I went in wanting this to be a beautiful send-off to the character, give us one last great adventure, and it ended up just being fine. This is not a bad movie. It has moments that I adore. Specifically the first 20 minutes. I almost wish this entire movie was with a de-aged Harrison Ford, young Indiana Jones, like after The Last Crusade. It would have worked a lot better. But instead we got this main plot that's frankly uninteresting. The Dial of Destiny is not a compelling main artifact. Indy himself as a character doesn't feel like he needs to be going on this adventure. They kind of just shoehorned in this whole goddaughter storyline to get him back out there one more time, but he's clearly at that retirement age. You know, he's nearing the end of his tenure as a professor, so there was really no need to bring him out of retirement. Like, I thought they were going to have this beautiful arc for him, but they really didn't. Like, the end of Crystal Skull to the end of Dial of Destiny, he's pretty much the same character. It's like a replica ending. He's happy with Marion at the end of both films, and that's that. My biggest issue with this movie is how it goes off the rails in the third act. I can't even wrap my brain around the fact that they actually went there. The other Indiana Jones films are filled with these supernatural elements, and they're tied to the artifacts, and it's believable to a certain extent. You do have to suspend disbelief a little bit, but in this movie, it turns into the full-on joke at the end, in my opinion. There's some moments that I enjoy. The John Williams score hits, but I wanted to love this movie, and I walked out saying that was pretty meh and easily the worst Indiana Jones film, so it's definitely one of the most disappointing movie experiences I've ever had, and it hurts my heart right now having to admit that. At number 4 on my list is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a movie that was hyped up just as much as Spider-Man No Way Home. The marketing showed us Professor Charles Xavier. The speculation was real. This was going to be the movie that brought back all the MCU heroes and all the old Fox Marvel heroes, and it didn't do that. And honestly, that's on Marvel for teeing it up. They led all the fans to believe, oh, this is going to have the X-Men return. I know they got butts and seats. The movie did almost $1 billion, but it's on them for giving us false expectations. Then you go and watch the actual movie, and it's basically a Wanda movie, which is cool. They should have just made a Scarlet Witch film and then a Doctor Strange 2 and like had them be separate, honestly, because it feels conflicting. Like, it's like they both have to share a movie. Just give them their own projects, in my opinion. Sam Raimi definitely gets to embrace his directorial style in this movie, but I can't get over like the middle part of this film where they introduce the Illuminati. They literally introduced John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt. We've got a Captain Marvel variant. We've got a Captain Carter variant, and they all just get wiped away like that by Wanda. And it basically just set up this false promise and took it away from fans, and I don't know why they did that. It was like, oh, well, here's this fan cameo you guys wanted to see. Let's kill him off now and move on. It's like, we wanted Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and this movie didn't do that. Take all that away and it becomes a pretty generic MCU film by the end of it, and it's just a big letdown for me. They had some great marketing, they teed it up to be amazing, and it really dropped the ball in my mind. At number 3 on my list is Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. This is a movie that derailed the entire Star Wars fandom, and while it does have some redeemable moments, I look back on this film and go, I wish it never happened this way. I don't like the way they portray Luke Skywalker. The marketing for this movie was incredible, and it was one of the most anticipated movies of all time going into it because of how much I loved The Force Awakens. But I walk away from this movie so upset. The Broom Kid, the Canto Bight stuff, the Luke versus Kylo fight. I mean, I could go on and on nitpicking the crap out of this movie, but it just irks me that this was put out and essentially derailed not only Star Wars, but the reputation of the film franchise and just the entire brand. This is the beginning of the end for Star Wars, and few projects have tried to save it or revive it since then, but this is the movie that derailed it, so I walked out in denial, and I literally went back the next morning with a notepad and took down all my issues, my pros and cons. It's really heartbreaking. My runner-up is 2016 Suicide Squad, and a common theme in this video is how the marketing for the movie is great. The trailer for this movie fully sold me. It had Bohemian Rhapsody. I thought Jared Leto's Joker looked awesome, and it was pitched as like this anti-hero film with a group of villains going on this mission to take time off their sentence. Like, that's such a cool setup. And I went in, Harley Quinn's Margot Robbie, Will Smith is Deadshot. The cast was stacked, and this could have been the first big win for DC following Batman vs. Superman. And unfortunately, the movie is a mess. It's basically a glorified music video. It's honestly one of the worst movie experiences I've ever had. When Heathens by 21 Pilots plays at the credits rolled, I felt relief. I was like, this is one of the best parts of the movie. It's unwatchable with a horrible main villain. The entire movie is so rushed, and I've heard David Ayer had like issues with the studio, but unfortunately, I have to critique the final product that we did get, and this movie's a stinker if I've ever seen one. I was so excited. I want it to be a win for DC. And I think BVS and Suicide Squad in 2016 was the beginning of the falling off of DC. It lost audience trust really early, and you don't want to do that when you're trying to build out a universe. But taking the top spot for my most disappointing movie of all time is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I should have known this was going to stink after The Last Jedi. But I was delusional, I was in denial, I was like, wait, J.J. Abrams is back, they can save this thing. That was not the case. Somehow, Palpatine returned. Poe, you said it best because I don't know how the hell it happened either. It makes no sense within the canon of Star Wars. We've got Star Destroyers coming out of the ocean like it's a damn Transformers movie at the end. Honestly, I'm physically nauseous talking about it right now. I'm not doing that for comedy. I feel sick talking about this movie right now. It's so flawed. It's the worst Star Wars film we've ever seen. The ending, God, there's so many issues with this. The final act of this movie is gross. It's so poorly done. This movie's awful. I'm starting to sweat and feel sick talking about it. It's the most disappointed I've ever been because I bought it and I was like, oh, it's gonna save the Star Wars trilogy. It's gonna save it. Didn't. Really dropped the ball here, and when they fake killed Chewie, I was like, he's not dead. They were gonna wipe 3PO's memory. Not the case. I mean, this movie is just fake out after fake out, and it's just awful. It's a terrible movie. And this is the studio trying to save face and please everyone, and what they ended up doing was pissing everybody off, those who hated The Last Jedi and those who loved The Last Jedi. Crazy how you can do that, but this is one of the most mismanaged trilogies or movie franchises Disney has ever helmed. Disgraceful, and one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Also the most disappointing movie I've ever seen. But that does it for my top 10 most disappointing movies of all time. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe and hit that notification bell to help reach my goal of 85,000 subscribers here on the channel. It would mean a lot. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.